Bio, everything good on your end for this one?
Just waiting for the teams to arrive.
Sweet, sweet, sweet. Alright guys, so gonna have Thekla jump down in a minute. Match 4 of day 1 is gonna be against, or between, keep saying against Delvechio's ISK doubling service versus team TGL3's Thanny pack. Anybody who's been on Ganked has seen that particular loss mail hundreds and hundreds of times, and it's still funny. So we're getting the teams on grid now, or shortly at any rate. So do we just want to talk about that last match truly briefly before next teams are on grid?
Yep. I think really good piloting on terms of the mic check team with the double HK, double Vexer team. There's a ton of DPS, of course, coming on from the Vexers, assuming they land the tackle with the ISKers. So the ISKers are very important there.
Yeah, and interestingly, we found out after the match that pretty much everything on grid in that last fight had an active tank. So there were no logistics on the side of Fozzie as my wingman, but all those caracals appeared to be fit with a large shield extender and a large ancillary shield booster, which is similar to the fit that Team WeHurt ran in the Neo. And it's quite fun, actually. That large ancillary buys you a little bit of time that you wouldn't have had otherwise. And then really interestingly, we saw the Ishker on your team had a small armor repair and no plate, if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, the idea of the small ancillary wrapper on your tackler, or like a regular wrapper on the tackler, is really that you can go without the help of the logistics for a while. But maybe in a format like this, with only 4 pilots possible to be locked by, in this case, the Oneros, and not that much DPS. The arena is a little bit smaller than the Alliance tournament, for instance. It's only 100 across, it's not 125. It might have been better to just go for the buffer tank on the Ishkers and just give the Oneros a little bit more time to apply reps.
Right, and that's sort of what I was wondering. Why even fit a local tank on those Ishkers if you have the Oneros? I mean, is it worth it in your mind, or do you think that it's... I personally, I think it's a little... pointless.
I think it wouldn't have been needed. I understand where they're coming from, but I don't think it would have been needed. Teams are starting to land, by the way. I think the team currently landing is your team, so that should be... Let me check the sheet.
Yep, that is definitely my team. So TGL3's Thanny pack, I believe, is who I have, right? Vash is the captain for that team. Okay, and
I think they all named their ships TGL3's Thanatos.
Good. Sticking with the theme. So this is a hell of a comp here. From the side of TGL3's Thanny pack, we have a Cruor, which is a pirate faction frigate, an Executor, 2 Vexers, and a Vigil. So that Cruor gets me all excited. Even though I don't like the ship, I think it's going to be really interesting to see what kind of work he can do with the newts off that.
Mm-hmm.
So interestingly... Well, I should say expectedly.
Balanced.
Right. So, interestingly, we have the Cruor and the Vexers, as well as the Vigil, all blobbed right next to each other, and it looks like they're about 30 off the beacon, whereas the Executor came in at about 50 kilometers. So, what is it that your team's flying?
I have another kite comp, 3 Caracals, Bellicose, and a Maulus. So that's one of the setups we've seen before. That's also what Fozzie is my wingman in the previous match.
So one thing we can expect to see, Vash Aderon is the pilot of the Cruor. I expect to see him disappear really quickly at the start of this match.
Yeah,
these Caracals, right, and these Caracals are probably rapid light fit. You're not going to suffer too much from the reload time, given it's only a 5v5. Odds are you can kill whatever you're after within 1 reload. But in the event that they are headable, or in the super unlikely event that they are ham, they've got that Bellicose, which I'm sure has target painters, so their damage will apply no matter what they've got in those high slots. So here we go. The match has started.
Yeah, match is starting. Caracals expected are moving away. I think you can actually get away with heavy missile Caracals with the Bellicose TP help.
Right. So really early on, I can see some drones going for the Executor. Oh, Captain Max Power Thrust right off the bat. So I thought it was the I believe that was the Vigil pilot. Yeah, that would have to be Rapid Light. So that volley hit before the Executor pilot really had any chance. I expect to see the crew next. The Vexor Frank Bean is sort of moving out toward these Caracals, but the Caracals are doing a good job maintaining a decent range and just falling from a distance. Oh, and here goes my beloved Cruor, Vash Aderon, and the Cruor is now taking damage.
He's not long for this world, and he's actually down, so
there you go.
The right thing in the kite competition. They're staying away, they're just landing volleys of missiles on the opposing team. Although Dr. Pies is now taking damage from drones, I assume.
Yeah, he's definitely low shields, but he's got the option to just move away. Meanwhile, Miri in the Executor doesn't have that luxury. I can see the target painter on him. I can see missile volleys coming over. And he is going into armor. Interestingly, the Executor has really high resist for a Tech 1 hull. So we might expect to see him stay up for a bit, but it doesn't mean much if they're not killing anything in the interim. And all 5 members still up for the Kitey Caracal team of Delvechio's ISK doubling service.
I think they may have a really hard struggle beating the Caracal setup. Although Dr. Pies is now leaking into armor pretty heavily, they're not taking care of the drones from the Vexors that are actually on the Caracal. Maybe it's something they should consider.
Yeah, so I've just now realized what it is that they're doing. These Vexors brought Curators, so they're Sentry Vexors. Because they're armor, we can expect at least one omnidirectional. There goes the first Caracal. So at least one omnidirectional tracking link in the mids, which means these Curators are going to be able to apply damage to these Caracals from a long way away. Miro in the Exec holding on. What a hero. He is in low armor, though. He will be going down. But Zan, XAN in the Caracal, is now in armor, and he is under the tracking, though, I think, of the Curators for the time being.
He's on the receiving end of now still 6 Curators from the bonus Vexors. Yeah, he seems to be dealing with the damage right now.
So now it's just 2 lone Vexors against the world, though. These Caracals are pretty smart, actually. Even for a Kitey comp, they knew that they needed to get under the tracking of these Curators, and they did that fairly successfully. But now, for no real reason whatsoever, they're burning out with 0 transversal on these Curators, and Zan is getting hit.
Hit really hard. He might go down before the match ends, actually.
I believe he will, and that would leave us with 2 cruisers on the side of Delvechio's and Amalis versus the 2 Vexors of TGL3's Thanny pack. These Vexors are pretty tanky. They're holding up really, really well.
Yeah, the Vexors still have the damage controlled, I will assume, structure HP to go through, so there's still a lot of tank remaining on Frank Bean's Vexor. With just going down really down in structure right now.
Right. It looks like they're going to trade at almost the same time. So XAN and the Caracal is about to go down. All they need is one fairly good Curator volley. Come on, do it. There he goes, and now he's down. But Frank
traded. It's now
Frank Bean
Vexor against the Caracal bellicose maulers of the opposing team. I'm not facing Vexor here.
No, I'm afraid I'm not either. Especially with a sentry payload, they're sort of limiting what they could do. If this Bellicose and this Caracal get in close to these Curators, orbit at a fairly close range with their MWDs off, I think the Vexor's dead in the water.
Matter of time before we eat into the armor and structure. Actually, armor already taking away from the Vexor, with the Caracal and Bellicose not taking any significant damage. Plus, he can now focus all his damps on the lone Vexor, so he just cannot lock anything.
This is true, but if he's already got those drones cycling, which it looks like he does, he won't need to target anything until that primary goes down. But yeah, he won't be able to switch target. Doesn't look like it's going to matter as he goes into low armor, but to hit structure, he will be dying shortly, and that'll be a really exciting fight and a well-earned victory for Delvechio's ISK doubling service.
Yeah, ballsy to bring Sentry Vexor, actually, I think.
I think that was
the winner of the fight, actually.
Yeah, I think that's actually really, really clever. Without knowing what other team's going to fly in, they sort of have to think, what can we bring to counter whatever shows up? As we talked about earlier, obviously shield setups are going to be really popular. And this kiting Caracal setup is pretty easy to fly and generally pretty successful fleet comp, so I think they were really, really smart in Curators, which not only have excellent tracking and a really nice range, but they do EM damage. So they're sort of planning for the shield comp, and despite the fact that that's what they were up against, they couldn't overcome just the DPS from Delvechio.
Well, well fun on both sides. Vigil going down at the start may not have helped the Curator applying a lot of damage as well.
That is true, actually. That's something I didn't consider. So if that Vigil is, even if he fits for tank, maybe he can squeeze a 400 plate on there with a prop mod. It's still going to be too little to survive rapid light volleys, and the poor Executor pilot tried, I'm sure, but it just wasn't going to happen. Too much alpha.
Yeah.
But a great match.
Good match indeed. Let's wrap up here and get set up for the next match, which shall be, well, give it 10 minutes or so. That shall be Team CCP Fox 4 or Sox 4, Stole by Rifter, versus completely useless needy Thespians, or CUNT. Another shout out to Mangala Solaris.
All right, well, we'll see everybody back here in just a few minutes. And that will be match 5 of day 1. So we'll see you guys back.